know your focus will be on coming weekend, but for Champions Cup, what do you as Director of Rugby know about the circumstances of that match?
Yes, so it is on this weekend, but you do have to take that slightly retractive view on at times, Daniel, as you know, because you've got hotels to book and visas to push through, and the European, whatever it is, EPCR, they've met today as a committee to resolve the question whether or not the game will be on. And right now, the answer is yes, the games are on. Quite how they're going to get, just from our point of view, 9 Schengen visas through in the next week, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that, but it's got to go through levels of government, which is quite higher up the echelon. So usually they follow the football, because most of the sporting bubbles would or would not be approved through the football, but the football is in February. So right now they're having to carve their own path as to what's going to be allowed, or what's going to be allowed from the French government. I obviously 100% want it to be on, like the rugby players, not rugby trainers. But we can't field a competitive side without getting our South African players over into France. We can't field one, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it.
So what's your instincts about maybe not just this game, but the competition? It's one wanted these set circumstances to happen, but does it feel doomed to you?
Doomed is a big word, isn't it? Because if I say yes, then that could come up as a title. You've done that before. Sanderson thinks Europe doomed, so I'm not going to say doomed, Daniel. No. Well, I do think it's in trouble, and it's not through its own fault. We've all had to deal internally with COVID and all the issues and curveballs that come up because of it. We missed the Newcastle game, obviously, just a few weeks back. But there's no space in the season to reschedule these games. There is none. So how do you continue with the tournament in its old structure? I can't see you can. If we can't field our best team to go to France, or that game isn't played potentially because it's still slightly up in the air, I can't see how you can continue with the old format. So they'll have to come up with something different and interesting, and maybe some kind of knockout.
Recording in progress.
Some kind of knockout competition, but that's well above my pay grade, Daniel, to answer how they devise the means and ways for the best teams to play in Europe. But certainly we want to do it. We want to play the best teams. That's why you coach.
And you're coming up to a year appointments of being a DOR. How do you reflect on the last 12 months? What's the biggest lesson you've learned, or the biggest surprise you found going from that role of head coach to DOR?
The reflections, one of a roller coaster, I guess. There's been some brilliant highs and some pretty big reality checks over the last year. I guess the biggest lesson is it's not all about rugby. It really isn't. Wish it was just about the game, but there's so much on the exterior that goes into the role, that goes into the happy running of a club. I won't go into the detail of it now, but it's challenging. It makes you grow as an individual, and you've got to take all these things on, all those exterior things that influence the club, not just the team, that influence the club as a director, and make the most out of them, make the best out of them, see them as challenges and not things to take your attention away from what the performance, what the team needs at the weekend. So read into that what you will, but it's a bit of a minefield at times.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Cheers, mate.
Hi Alex, it's Nick here. Happy New Year to you as well.
Hello, Nick.
Could you elaborate on the minefield and the mines that you're having to deal with maybe now in this role that you weren't in your old role at the other place?
Oh, look, it's only the same rhetoric that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, and one that I haven't been exposed to. But it's to do, like, we all have, I'm sure, coaches and director of rugby's, an ideal of what the environment and the culture and also the on-field actions of the players should be, how you want it to be, and that's with their influence as well. And that's pure, for me, that's a pure part of the game. But the reality of salaries, salary caps, COVID, in all of its influence, that's not just in terms of being able to play your best teams, but also in the ripple effect that's had on people's lives outside of the game. And then the up management of investors as well, and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I happen to like our owners, Jed and Simon and Michelle, very much, but it is a distraction at times away from what I've just said is the pure art of coaching and trying to build a team. So there's that, and then there's trying to navigate the remnants of an old regime as well, which I've been busy with at times. So as you can see, there's a lot of facets there to running the club. And naively, maybe I just thought it was about the rugby. It's not. It really isn't. But like I say, I am enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm, oh, woe is me. Like I wanted this, and I'm seeing it as a really good challenge, because I know there's still loads more in us. But I didn't realise how much time and energy all those other things would take out of the role, out of my ability to do what I wanted to do with the team and the culture.
Are you good at delegating? Do you need extra hands? Have you got enough bodies on the ground at the moment?
I reckon we've got enough bodies. We've got enough intelligent, trustworthy people who are on board. I'm still not good enough at delegating. I need to have a proper structure and look at role clarity. But that again, that's part of the job. You know, it'd be easier for me to stick my head in the sand and get on with the sport, but it's a bigger role than that. So yeah, I'm starting to find that out. Well, not starting to. I'm well in the midst of it. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's one from me, Al. If I can just go back to that stay fluid thing. Does that kind of reflect what you've just been talking about?
Yeah,
to a degree?
Yeah. So just when you've got everything nailed on, right, Nick? Just when you think, right, you've planned the session, you've talked to the coaches, you've run the session, the meeting's gone well. You've had feedback from your senior players that they're happy with the messages and they're happy with the meeting, and you've got a focus for the next day. So you've done all of that, right? And you get to like 3:30 at the end of the day and you think, right, I probably deserve a brew here. That's a good day. I've got to say to myself, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen in the next hour, 2 hours. I'm going to get home, I'm going to get a call from the head of medical, from Navdeep Shandhu, or I'm going to get something from the S&C guys, or something from the doctor that someone's come down with COVID, or we can't get the visas for Europe, or someone's turned up stiff. Something every day happens, almost comically so. So, and it was my missus actually. Like I was skipping into work, I think Monday. I'm like, right, all sorted, gonna be a good week, and she's just like, stay fluid. Just remember, there's something coming, and she's spot on. So I just revert back to that, and then it seems all right, because most of the time these things that come your way aren't in your control, aren't in my control, even though you planned and talked and reviewed. They're not in your control. So as soon as you come to terms with that, then you can let it go, because I'm sure most directors of rugby, most people are pretty much control freaks, and it's your job to plan every minute down to the minutiae. Whereas if you understand there's going to be something that blows all out of the water periodically, daily, then you're all right with it, Nick.
It's always better with a cup of tea out, that's for sure.
Yeah, cup of tea. Yeah, I'm not due one yet. I'm going to get one after you guys.
Alex, John West here, if I could jump in.
Hey, John.
Hi, Val. Just with the evolving recruitment situation the way it is, you guys have got a growing number of England players.
Yeah.
Both through those you produce yourself, and you signed a couple probably as well. Can you give us a feel to your approach in terms of how much it's worth a club having England international, given the amount of openness from a club point of view and I guess the compensation that you get for the time they are away?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think from a purely financial point of view, it's important to have English qualified players, or at least a number of them, so you can reach that quota. That's worth a lot of money and will be worth increasingly amounts of money. If they are playing for England, you get money back from England off them, and you get money in the cap for them to accommodate for them.
Yeah.
So I think all that kind of makes sense. From a kind of coaching point of view, I want people who are right, not at the top of the game. That's not true, because I'm more than happy to get people with the potential to be right at the forefront of the game. But these guys coming in, like John Eales on his pomp, and as we've seen, Fordy's got a point to prove. So I want those people who are driving and who are properly driven, not just down the other end, or perhaps never make it. Guys who are good enough to make it right at the top level, because you need them in the big games to win them at the back end of the season and at the start of the season. From a purely cultural point of view, I want people to come here who want to be here, not just for the paycheck. And those two guys you mentioned, they're coming home. They're coming back north. They come to spend time more with their family, and they want to be part of this, what we're building here. So it's a case-by-case scenario, recruitment. But you mentioned two people in a similar criteria, and both of their criteria pretty much matches in terms of our recruitment strategy. It's good for us, it's good for them.
Yeah, okay. And I guess you build a squad around, you've then got to build a squad around those inevitable absences.
Yes, you've got to look probably 3 deep, I'd say.
Is that bit become quite a bit harder with the smaller cap? Yes.
I think most teams are looking more towards their own academy. And then what you find is, in the case of a, say, let's take a Johnny Earl, what Exeter probably had in the cap wasn't what he was worth to us. So there's always a club out there with a little bit more money or a marquee spot who were able to lure players away potentially with a bit more money than what they would have received in their own club. And I think you're probably going to see, well, we have seen, haven't we, more movement than we would have anticipated because of this cap. I don't think that's such a bad thing. You know, your Genges is another one going. Like, I'm sure if they had the money, they would have kept him. But right now, you can only offer what you can offer as long as it fits into the salary cap puzzle. And we're still in the process of that, to be honest, lads. There's still movement that's going to happen, I'm sure, in every other club where money will be freed up and or taken away due to the demands of the players' salaries. You really get to see who wants. It separates the wheat from the chaff when it comes down to this. You get to see who wants to be around because money becomes less of an object, and you probably see more overseas people going back overseas and stuff, going to France. Maybe if it is about money, you'll see that kind of transference of players. That's just another curveball. That's how you got to stay fluid. We've had a couple of them as well.
Is the curveball the same as a minefield or different?
Minefields, them's the ones that blindside you. Yeah, it's more of a minefield, this, John, to be fair. These kind of ones, the more of minefields, because you can plan, again, around your salary cap. Oh, and easier, and this, that, and the other. And then, like I say, you're not telepathic. It's not. You can't always know the minds of men, can you? So, what you think someone wants for the future and in a holistic sense is completely different to what that individual is actually after. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Cheers, John.
Alex Spink, good afternoon, happy new year.
Hiya, mate.
All right.
Yeah, good, thanks. Sorry, I was just trying to figure out who was talking. It's you now. Hiya, mate.
So I missed the very start of this. Did you answer questions about, you probably didn't, so let me ask you, you're supposed to be playing in France next week, aren't you?
Yeah, Dan mentioned it, yeah.
What's the degree of certainty, uncertainty around that game, and how tough is it for you to prepare for them?
It's a high degree of uncertainty that it will happen, but I 110% want it to happen. And we've already started the planning process around, how we build our game up in terms of the narrative and the analysis. So, look, it's that's the challenge, trying to keep the lads on it. With you just got to tell them it's on. We're just telling them it's on, and it is for all intents and purposes. We're told it's going to go ahead, but all these circumstances surrounding the ability for it to go ahead are still at the moment very hazy and speculative. So.
A couple of other brief ones. Manu, update on that?
So Manu, he's running today.
Yep.
He was running out there running, and yesterday, so that's really good. So we should be back for Leicester, fingers being crossed. So I was hoping Ospreys, but Leicester more likely.
That's a timely boost.
Oh, yeah, no, it'd be good to have him back for Leicester at home. Yeah.
Sell a few more tickets on the back of that one.
Yeah. I'm more about beating Leicester really, but don't quote me on that one yet. We're still a few weeks off.
And just one finally from me. Looking ahead to the game on Friday, is Rafi Cook fit for that game?
No, he's not.
He's not.
He won't be playing.
In that case, I won't ask the question.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex.
Cheers. Thanks, Al.
Alex, you again. Still on the European thing, you mentioned about visas, Schengen visas.
Schengen visas.
Can you explain a bit more about that, just so we understand?
What you're getting at third hand, I should bring my manager in to tell you about it. But there's a certain type of visa that you get if you're South African, which has to be approved via the French customs or government or whatever. And obviously they've restricted travel to business only, haven't they? Essential only, not even business, essential only. So it's not even business travel, of which I think a Schengen visa is based around. So they'd have to fast track and approve these Schengen visas in kind of record time. Apparently it's only a stamp, but I don't know. It's out of our hands. This is entirely in the lap of European rugby and their ability to push it through, and then the French government to approve it. So it's got to go for a few loops first. Few hoops, or should I say?
Does that mean give you different categories of players though, or
it doesn't give us
essential travel only?
It doesn't give us a competitive team. Right. Look, there's nine of our squad who wouldn't be approved, and that's not even including some of those lads who haven't been double jabbed. But there's one or two, and we're not the only ones. I think it was Newcastle and somebody else. Quinn said exactly the same thing. So we're all in a similar boat here.
Okay. So you're not thinking of taking any Sale FC players with you or something like that? That's start to have to consider that kind of thing, do you?
It's a mockery of a cup then, isn't it? It's a mockery of a cup, what we call it, second team European Cup. We're in it to play the best teams of our best teams. So no, I wouldn't even consider taking a second team to Claremont to get beaten up. Doesn't come into my philosophy at all.
Thank you.
Alex Slinger, Rugby Pass, how are you? Happy
Hi,
New Year to you.
Hi Liam, you're right.
Good, yeah. Look, just focused on the game Friday night. HM McGinty's heading down to Bristol. I presume you're going to be involved, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, can you just give me an idea as to how he's been around the club in the 8 weeks since he announced he was going to leave? And he caught the eye last weekend in recruitment over was. I'm just wondering how's he adjusted to life at Sale, knowing that he will be leaving eventually at the end of the season.
Seemingly really well. I had a good chat to him on the field yesterday because I hadn't caught him for a while and kind of left him to it. And AJ, as you know, is one of those, as you've witnessed, is one of those players that if he's happy, he plays really well because frees him up like it does most people. And so you probably saw in terms of his performances post an injury after London Irish, him have a little bit of a dip and not being as mercurial or pulling the strings as he did on Saturday down at the AJ Bell. So his performance on Saturday is a good indication of how he is right now, which is a little more settled, certain of his future, and the fact that he's leaving is accepted. Like the ACAD, we give it to the ACAD boys to sing, to customise a Christmas carol, every one of our Christmas dinners. We had that last week, and they actually wrote that into his Christmas carol that he was leaving and JP's going and stuff like that. So it's now become a point of ridicule for him, and as soon as that happens, it's accepted. His wife's very pregnant. She's just about to have a second child. And he seems very. Just we don't mention it. We don't speak about it. I haven't even mentioned it this week, but he's right on it in terms of probably wanting to prove to us what we're missing and to them what they're getting.
That's good. And just with regard to Bristol itself, I mean, they're playing well but not getting results. What would you view it?
What's my view on Bristol?
Yes.
They have changed some of their playing style in recent weeks. You've probably noticed that yourself. In terms of their game management. So they're kicking more, higher up the field, and that's made them more competitive, I feel, against those kind of real physical teams with good set pieces, with which Exeter and Leicester are. So to some degree, you have to assume that tactic might be employed this weekend with us, because we've got a strong defence and a good kicking game. However, they've still got ridiculous firepower, haven't they? In the back three and their outside backs, let alone Randall, who tops their line breaks from. So, whilst you can try to predict the style they might play, you've got to be aware of the danger that they have. And if you kick loose to them and you turn over sloppy ball or you switch off even 5 minutes from the line, they'll burn you. Want to bring them to a fight, as always. That's what happened at Sale. It was 0-0 at half time before we turned them, and something like 12-10 down at their place. So the more occasions we can bring them to a physical battle and a proper fight, the better for us, I would say, come this weekend.
Okay, thank you. Go well. Cheers.
Cheers, Lynn.
Alex, it's Chris Jones.
Hi, mate. I saw you Saturday, didn't I?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Can I ask you the daily Lude question? You talk about the emotions of people who are
Yeah.
feeling happy. Lude, I know, is mulling over a hell of a lot of things in his head. Where is he at the moment? Because he obviously played really well for you last time out, but it's still the grey area, isn't he? Will he be with you next season?
It's still grey. Chris, I can't give you an answer on that one. I apologise. I think we're in constant communication and we're talking about his options in and around what's best for him and his family, hence why he's playing well, because he feels like we're supporting and backing him. And if we can, keep him. If things can work out, and it's not to do with the rugby and it's not to do with money, he can ask that himself, he can ask it himself. It's purely to do with his family situation. If we can work that out in some ways, then there may be a chance. But that's what we're working on.
So was Johnny signed despite what happens to Lude, or the concern that he won't be here?
There's concern, yeah. There's concern. I think we've got, there's always concern that one of your best players would have to move on for their own reasons, but not in the long term, not for the club. I mean, AJ goes on for a better offer for a longer term offer, and you get a George Ford. And if Lude will go, I'm sure people will step up into the void. That's how it works, isn't it? You've got to just keep progressing, keep growing.
Although Ratfi's not fit, I take it Tom Curry's back, is he? And is his brother okay after the off?
Yes, they're both all right. So whether or not we select Tom Curry, I'll leave that to your own assumptions. The world's best player, we'll leave him out of the squad.
Thank you.
Any more, chaps?
I was going to chip in another.
Go on, you.
Alex, are you aware of a guy called Marco Massotti who was involved with the Sharks in South Africa?
No.
And also, there's an interest in Saracens here. He tweeted yesterday afternoon, I think it was, that it'd be a good idea if Sale changed their name to Sale Tuna. Were you aware of that?
Sale Tuna?
As opposed to also being the Sharks.
No. Is that? No, I'm not. Is it funny that?
Well, it depends how you look at it, I guess.
Tuna are a very valuable fish. Very quickest fish. One of the quickest fish in the ocean, aren't they? Tuna themselves are they're apex predators. So I'd take it as a compliment. You got to own all sorts of comments like that, haven't you? So at least he's talking about us. That's one more for the fray. We could do a few more of them.
Okay. Do you know him as an individual? Are you aware of his involvement in rugby?
No, I don't know him. No.
Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately.
I won't push if you're not aware of it.
I don't go on social media. You are my only contact. You boys are my only contact to the outside media world. I have to say, I don't follow any of that kind of stuff for good reason, because you get idiots posting comments.
Yeah, he's not just any old idiot though. He's a part owner of two other.
I didn't call him an idiot. Don't misquote me on that. I'm just saying you do get idiots. I'm sure he's a very intelligent.
You mentioned Randall topping their line breaks. How big a threat is he, and what do you have to do to make sure he doesn't kind of boss this game a little bit?
It's a proper question, Al. Thanks for that. Yeah, he's massive. He's a really big threat with them. Because they've got so much danger out in the width, if they get any quick ball in and around the ruck, that's when they're able to play with that kind of width and get into those outside channels and look to offload the ball as they all can do. So you really got to lock them up around the ruck. You've got to dominate all those collisions around there. And any half quick ball, he's in and through, isn't he? He does it every week. So we had a real focus this week on making sure we're sharp. People call it your pillar A, your B, or your first three defenders either side of the ruck, just to be sharp, talking them out, verbal pressure, being square, and forcing that pass. Then we can take them on in other areas.
Because you look at him a bit like Faf to a degree, and he looks like a tiny bloke in a big man's game, doesn't he? But he has a huge influence.
Yeah, he does. He's been great for the money, coming back. He's been back for a while now. That's why he's got the England team. It's like, if you tighten up too much, and here's the juxtaposition, like the dichotomy, if you tighten up too much around the ruck, then they've got more space out wide. So you've just got to get set early. You've got to get set early, nominate your space in thereafter, then you know what your role clarity is. And the slower that ball is, so the bigger the collision, the more time you can spend in tackle, or force them back, or have their head facing their own touchline, the more time you've got to set. So, the two things go hand in hand. You've got to win collisions, set early, take care of the ruck, and then line speed should be easy on the back of that, really. But that's that kind of defence 101. Yeah, any defence coach will tell you that.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Alex, sorry, I missed this earlier. What's Rafa's injury at the moment?
Oh, right. So, something and nothing, lads, to be honest. He was training for 2 weeks and training really well, due to start the Newcastle game. And he just turned and chased one of his old mates, or one of his current mates, on a proper sprint, and he felt his quad just tighten up a little bit. So we were aware that he got a cork, he got a dead leg about 3 weeks ago now in his leg. and sometimes those dead legs they tear some of the muscle, the fascial muscle. How you look at that is you do strength tests to see if it's weakened, and it wasn't even weak, so there's no markers suggesting they had an injury. None. And his strength's good and he sprinted all right, but when he went flat out, full out, he felt it tighten a little bit. So precautionally, we sent him to get a scan, and the scan said, yes, there's a very deep, small tear as a result of this dead leg, which is why we didn't pick it up. But now you're already 2 weeks through the rehab of it. It should only take you another 2 weeks to get through it. So it was something we're unaware of that we now saw from the scan, and fortunately we didn't do any more damage to it. So he's just on that, just looking after him on that kind of rehabilitation program. And he's running around and stuff today, but not quite fit enough for us to start, which obviously I'm gutted about. But Cliffy did a great job last week. Old man Cliffy did a really good job.
Is that to now then, Rafi, or about another 1 week?
Yeah, like another week, another 2, some in and around that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cheers.